Hi everyone, welcome back to Chia's Tips at 3. I'm Michaela and I am so excited to share with you today. We are going to be talking about something called Lapbooks. Maybe you have never heard of Lapbooking before, but I'm looking forward to sharing about this with you. If you are finding yourself at this time, we're all going through a hard season and you're finding yourself thinking, I'm tired of the worksheets and the textbooks. Maybe you need to mix some things up, spice things up in your homeschooling, or if you're finding yourself crisis homeschooling, suddenly homeschooling for the first time, and you don't have enough content, you don't have enough things for the kids to do, Lapbooking can be a great solution for that. So I'm going to share with you what Lapbooks are and how you can use them, and it's very, very low cost. So this is a Lapbook, and basically what it is a file folder that contains little flaps and pockets, photos, artwork, all based around a central theme, and it becomes kind of a little portfolio of your kids for what they're working on. This particular Lapbook is a Lapbook about Peter Rabbit, and my first grader has been studying that during this month. And this is a template that I downloaded, and this is 2 file folders put together. And when you open it up, you will see it spreads into a 3-page spread of all kinds of little goodies about what he's been reading about. So he's been reading the story of Peter Rabbit, and then I'll try and get closer. You can see he's been learning about predators, rabbit food, things science for rabbit, and then garden tools, Mr. McGregor's garden. Over here are sheets that are too big to be cut up and put into little places. This is copy work. We did some math, grids making a garden. And these are other little flaps. So you can see this is kind of a very basic, obviously he's only 7 years old. This is a very basic Lapbook around the theme of Peter Rabbit. There are hundreds and hundreds of Lapbooks available for free online. My very favorite website to get Lapbooks is called homeschoolshare.com, and they just have lists. You can go by age, you can go by category, whatever you're thinking about, and find these Lapbooks for free for your kids to work on. And they're really good for kids that are hands-on, kinesthetic learners. They need something to do, and you really only need tape and glue, scissors, maybe some stickers and markers if you want to get into that, but you don't have to. So I'm going to show you just a few of the ones that my kids have been working on to give you some ideas, and then I'll get into some more tips. This was a book that we read about a poem of Robert Frost. We read this at Christmas time, and then we made a Lapbook about the poem. This one was a very simple Lapbook because it's just one single file folder. And so you can see we studied all the different animals. We wrote out the lyrics to Jingle Bells because it was mentioned in the book. And then these are some of the large sheets that he worked on. So this was a simple Lapbook that we did at Christmas time. Also earlier this year, we read the classic book Lentil, which is a great book if your kids haven't read it. And then we made a Lapbook that was kind of more of a reading comprehension to go with it, to show how much he knew about the story and how he could share about the story elements. And so these are something that they can really take as short or as long as you want. Something simple like this, you could work on it maybe a day or two, or you can spread it out throughout the whole week. You can do a month long, whatever you would like to do to make the Lapbook enjoyable for your kids to get into learning in a hands-on way. So I'm going to share some more with you. They don't have to be about book studies. I know that not everyone at home right now has access to a library or has books at home. But one year, my daughter and I did a study where we studied a different country every month, and we made a Lapbook about the country every month. And so this was one she did about India. And you can see that we covered religion in India, food, customs, animals, all kinds of different elements that had to do with the country. So that could be something fun that you can do with your kids. Also, one year we did zoology study, and so we made Lapbooks all about different animals each month. And so this was one of my kids that made a deer Lapbook. And as you get into it, you'll see they did some artwork and some drawing, the different types of deer, where they're mainly located on the map, and all kinds of sheets. And so this was a great animal study that they really got into. And this was, again, all downloadable free online. Something else that Lapbooking is great for is current events. So I'm going to show you an old one and then tell you how it could apply now. This was a study that we did in 2012 for the presidential election. So I had my kids watching election coverage on the news and then making Lapbook pieces about the candidates, about their political parties and what their views were, and all the information as the election went on. Something that you could do now while we are all going through this pandemic and the coronavirus is all over the news, there's lots of current events, so you could actually make a Lapbook about this season and what's going on in the news, and it will be a keepsake of history at some point in time. You can also be a little bit more elaborate. This was a study. My son is very into music, and so he was studying piano for a time, and so this is actually a multi-page booklet that you turn and covers multiple elements all in the Lapbook. So you can be very simple or you can be very elaborate. You can start and build up, but they're also a great way, I think, to tie in character and discipleship and Bible time with your kids. Homeschoolshare.com even has specific character study Lapbooks. So maybe you just really want to focus on obedience, because that is always a good topic. You can go and make a Lapbook that is just about obedience right now, and focus on character building and spending that time with your kids while you're off, during the season and you have extra time. I know people that add games to their Lapbooks, like printable games that they play. I have never done it, but I've seen it and it looks really awesome. You can find lots of ideas on Pinterest about Lapbooks. I also think it would be so much fun if your child and a friend decided to create the same Lapbook. You could print it out and have them work on it in their own homes, but maybe Zoom or FaceTime with each other and show each other, how they're working on the Lapbook together. And it could be like a study that they're doing together, even though they're not in the same room at the same time. So one last thing I want to say, Lapbooks are really good for kids who struggle with writing, or if they look at a blank page and they think, oh my goodness, how am I going to fill this whole page with content? It really works because everything inside of the Lapbooks, they're just little flaps and pockets. And so when they're writing, they're only writing small amounts, but it equals up to something really big in the end. And it's very cool. It's also a great alternative to boring book reports. So if your kids have a book report that they're working on, you can make it a Lapbook instead. So I hope this was encouraging to you. I hope that maybe you can, spice things up and find something different to do during this time when the kids, have to stay inside a lot more, but that doesn't mean that all school has to be boring. You can mix things up. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask those down below. I will comment, and we will be back tomorrow at 3 with Chia's Tips at 3s. Bye.